All right. Looks like I should be live here. I'll go take a look at this just to make sure it comes through. Looks like there's a little bit of a delay. Well, oh, there it is. That's a long delay. Jeez. Usually not. Usually doesn't take me that long to figure out if it's live or not. But anyway, uh, today I'm going to be talking about the kind of the fallout from the debate and all that stuff. So it was like we saw, kind of a terrible disaster. And there have been calls in the Democratic Party by a lot of people that Joe Biden should step down. He should drop out of the race. It's kind of expected. Those are the two things I kind of figured would happen. Is there'd be some people trying to do the spin on it and say it's actually okay. It really wasn't that bad, and trying to just ease the blow of that horrible loss. But I I don't know. I feel like most of them are really down in the dumps and have kind of accepted defeat. There's sort of all these people wondering, like, can we replace him? Can we not? There's elected Democrats that have piped up and said, we want him to step down. There hasn't been a whole lot of them. There's been at least one or two congressmen, I think, so far. I was just watching a video with Andrew Yang, who's not an elected official, but he was one of the contenders in the last round of Democratic primaries back in the 2020 election. And he wants him to step down. And other people, a lot of people in the media, that's probably the biggest thing. It's mostly people in the media that seem totally despondent and ready to give up and want Joe Biden gone. They've kind of cheered back up again, and some are trying to figure out what the line is supposed to be on this. I don't think that they know yet. Some polling just came out showing that the debate didn't have a whole lot of impact, at least on the polls so far, which is sort of expected, but that's also a terrible thing for Joe Biden because he was already losing in the polls. And he's losing, I think, in this last poll I saw, by like 6 points. And all the people they would replace him with are also losing. Some of them are not losing as bad as Joe. Like, I think in this last poll, Newsom was only losing by like 5 points, and Colimo was only losing by like 2. And I don't remember who else they polled on. I think Pete Buttigieg, maybe some other people. And none of them are winning. And so kind of the point of the people that are like, well, we can't get rid of him because all these other people are polling worse. Plus there's all this shit about could the campaign funds just transfer over to somebody or not? It doesn't seem like they can unless they transfer them to the Democratic Party first, and then they can use them however they want. It's kind of confusing. But there's worries about that. They could be transferred to Kamala because she's the VP. So I guess she can go ahead and take them because she's part of the campaign, I suppose. She's on the ticket. And it also seems like it's not going to be possible unless Joe Biden comes out and just decides to step down. It's technically possible, but it's like they would end up, what they would be doing is effectively saying all these people voted for Joe Biden because they technically ran a primary that he won. So all these people voted for him, and they're just going to step in and basically choose a different candidate. So it would piss people off. But the other thing is, I don't know, like when you think about that primary, I remember there being a lot of complaints. They were complaining that they didn't run any other candidates, or they were like stopping other candidates from getting into the primary because there was like one guy who wanted to run and Biden wouldn't debate him. And I think that was RFK's whole thing too, was he couldn't get on the ballot in certain states. And it was like they were trying to keep other people out of this primary, which seems like a really bad idea now because it might have been good for them to have a competitive primary where they could like expose Joe Biden's weaknesses and flaws sooner. And not that they weren't already exposed. It's just, it wasn't as like brutal as that, like it would be in a debate. I think if you're paying attention, like you've seen him do this kind of stuff before. It was never in an adversarial context. And it was always in like shorter, kind of spaced apart, like news clips. So you might see a news clip of him do it one day, and then it's like a few weeks, and then you see him do it again. And you're like, oh Jesus! But it was seeing it like 3 times in a row while he's trying to argue with somebody and being totally incapable of doing it and looking just off into the distance like like he's staring into the face of death or whatever that was. It was just a horrifying thing to watch. And I think it freaked a lot of people out, and they feel like he's not going to recover from this. Because the whole thing was, they kept saying, well, he's down in the polls, he's down in the polls, but there's a long time, it's a long way away, it can always get better. It doesn't seem like he's going to recover from this. It just seems like they're either going to lose or he's going to step down. And I don't know. It's really hard for me to see how they think he could win unless they're just relying on the hatred of Donald Trump, which is, it's there. Like Trump's still not polling above 50%. He's just winning because Biden's doing so much more worse. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think that they're going to get rid of him or can unless Biden decides to step down. And it seems like he's not going to do it. His family came to him. Apparently, Hunter, I guess he takes advice from Hunter for some reason, his crackhead son. And his wife, Jill Biden, they came to him and were like, oh, you can't drop out, Joe. You can't drop out. You've got to stay in this and you can do it. And I don't know why. I mean, I guess that both of those people benefit from him staying in the race. I feel like if Joe, the only thing other than, I guess I could see, well, no, that doesn't even make sense. I was going to say, I guess maybe he wants to stay in so he can pardon Hunter, but if he loses, he could pardon Hunter anyway. Like, it's not like he has to win or stay in the race to give his son a pardon. And if he's just worried about his legacy, well, probably the best thing for his legacy would be to just drop out right now, because otherwise, I mean, my God, if you like stay in and just hand it right back to Donald Trump, you'll be like, you will be like just famous for being a horribly failed presidential administration, and everything you've ever done will be reversed, and your own party will hate you. And the only thing you'll be remembered for is everyone saying you were too old and you should have dropped out. So I kind of feel like he should at this point. I think it'd be the better strategy. And I understand the people that are like, well, you're giving up the incumbency. And there's this guy they bring on CNN and some other places. He's like a historian. I call these types of people, they're like oracles. They're election oracles. These people bring on who are whatever they are. This guy, I guess, is a professor, and they've all got they devised a system. And it's, if they check these boxes and this stuff, and I've been able to correctly predict. I think this guy is like, I predicted 9 out of the last 10 elections, and I only messed up in the whatever the one was with Ross Perot. Was that 94? I guess it was. But it was whatever one day, and then he has like an excuse. He's always got, or no, it was the Bush Gore one, I think, is that he has an excuse for. And he's like, well, it was really close anyway, and really Al Gore actually won, or I don't know what his deal is. But he's like, oh, well, no, Biden's going to win no matter what, as long as you can't give up the. It's really stupid, those kind of systems, because this election's not like any other election. There's not going to be like ever some kind of systematic, this can predict every election type of bullshit. There's indicators and things like the incumbency. Normally that would be a pretty good advantage for somebody. It's kind of nullified in this case, given the fact that the last guy was already a president. So, I don't know that it matters that much. It is also like, Joe Biden's the oldest man in history. There's all kinds of shit. The other people didn't have this problem. You were never in this position in the first place because you never had these debates before you had the parties actually do their conventions. Pretty sure this is the first time that's happened, as far as I'm aware. Usually those are after. So it seems like, I don't know, they could have him step down and replace him. It seems like the smart move. But anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and play this clip here. I've kind of been just rambling for a little while here about all the different stuff I've seen going on. This is just one of the clips I've seen. There's a lot. There's too many to watch of all the people, and their different opinions. But this guy is, I guess, the co-campaign chair for Biden. And he's coming on to CNN. So this is some other damage control. He's here with Jake Tapper, who was obviously the moderator in that debate. He had a front row seat to that horrible disaster. Just watched a man get crucified on stage. And he's coming on. This guy's coming on to tell Jake, who's right there, that it wasn't that bad. He's here to explain to him that it wasn't that bad. And as you'll see, like, Jake Tapper is not having any of that. And I think it's kind of funny. Just I'll go ahead and show you. I just thought this was a funny little thing. Where do I get play on this? Here we go.
Everybody has a bad night. And I think that was a weak debate performance. I don't think anyone in the campaign is disagreeing with that point. But I've been urging, and I expect that this will be moving forward, for the president to reassure folks in the media, the general public, the many editorialists, and others who've expressed concern by doing unscripted, casual engagements with journalists, with small groups of voters, a town hall, so that you can see what I've seen with our president in the last few months and, of course, the last few years.
I don't think all the town halls and unscripted press conferences in the world are going to save you, buddy.
He is engaging. He is capable. He has an incredible record as president. I don't think you would dispute that, Jake.
My God. If his record was so fucking good, how are you in this position in the first place, my guy? The whole reason you had to do this goddamn debate is because if his record was good, you wouldn't have to do this. If his record was good, you wouldn't have had a debate. And this whole goddamn thing where it's like, we're going to have an unscripted press conference and he'll come out and you'll see him be engaging. We've seen press conferences, bro. Like, we've known about this before. It just because you're going to, in comparison, I'm sure you could do an unscripted press conference or a town hall or something. And it would probably not look nearly as bad, but it would still not be good. It's not going to be enough to inspire people's confidence. If he's been being the way that he has been for the past, at least, he was kind of like this already. Almost, it wasn't nearly as bad in 2020, but my God, he's never done anything. You had the State of the Union and all these people were like, oh, that was so great. And it was that was great for him. It wasn't, it was great by comparison. So I don't think something like that, though, is going to save his ass from this horrible performance. It's stuck and just seared into everyone's minds. It would take something extreme. There would have to be, maybe if he did another debate and he just blasted him out of the water. I just can't imagine that happening. At this point, I feel like he would have to take a cognitive test by some third party and have someone clinically say yeah, he's okay, which I don't think they're going to do. And it's because they would never take that gamble. Because what if the guy comes out and says, no, he's not? Even if they truly believe that he's okay, I don't think they would do that. And it's just man, this runs on how bad he is. It could be anywhere from he has some sort of degenerative actual thing like dementia, or he's just super old and he's got his stutter and he's lost some IQ points, because by the time you're 80 you're going to lose some of those, and when you're 80 you're in poor physical condition. It doesn't matter who you are, and you get stressed out, and at 9 p.m. it's late and you're really stressful. It's building up because you're doing this really stressful job and you just get overwhelmed and shit happens. It really doesn't matter, though, because it's not the presidency's not an insanely stressful job where you're going to have to deal with stressful shit, like having a conversation with someone you disagree with. I mean, my God. So it doesn't matter. And then obviously all the other shit would be way fucking worse if it was actual, I don't know, Alzheimer's or whatever old people get.
But the core question is whether what you saw in those few moments of the debate and over much of the arc of that 90-minute debate was someone having a difficult night or someone who is no longer up to the job. As he said on the stage in North Carolina, he wouldn't be running if he weren't confident he's up for the job.
So with all due respect, it is not honest to say that this is just one night.
Thank you.
There have been moments like this that people have seen in front of the cameras and other moments, but with cameras not there. Just 2 weeks ago, let me just show this clip. There was another moment like this, not just a senior losing a train of thought, but something else going on. Here he is. It was an event about immigration. He tries to introduce DHS Secretary Mayorkas, and there's some sort of glitch. I don't know what it is. Let's roll that tape.
Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding aside, Secretary Mayorkas.
On earth.
I don't know what that was.
See, and now, like stuff like that doesn't look nearly as bad compared to the debate, but it was still, it's not good.
That doesn't trouble me at all, Jake. Frankly, you can put up a dozen clips of me, of you, of anybody who's on TV who speaks publicly all the time.
I just don't think this is going to fly with anybody, bro. Frankly, Jake, that doesn't trouble me at all. You can put up clips of all of us being like, I'm never going to get to the end of this. Really? Really? Well, just do it then. Like, throw together your campaign ads of Trump doing that. Because I said this, you go watch my debate reaction. I said Trump says weird stuff too. I think this guy's about to bring that up. He's going to say everybody does this. But when Trump does it, it's not really quite the same. It's not really quite the same. It's him saying weird stuff. That's not exactly the same as like talking complete nonsense out of nowhere, or like going from talking about one subject to just drifting into just something completely unrelated, or saying the opposite. Or do you know what Joe Biden did in there? They were having. It wasn't just that he was like, coming up with like nonsense or whatever. It was the worst possible thing he could say at the worst possible time. It'd be like whenever he was going into the abortion thing, right? An abortion is like the thing they want to talk about. Roe v. Wade. The repeal of Roe v. Wade. It's probably their best issue. They're talking about all of that. And then in the middle of nowhere, out of nowhere, for some reason, Biden starts talking about that girl who got like killed. Was it killed and raped? He said he was raped, I think. I don't know why else he would have brought it up in the middle of an abortion thing. And so he just goes off on a tangent about immigrants like killing and raping people. And then he starts talking, which is like, this is the last thing he wants to fucking talk about. And then he starts saying stuff like that we got sisters raping people, and spouses are getting raped. And it's just like, what on earth? What are you talking about? Made no sense. And then you've got like what Jake just pulled up, which was just like a it was just like, what the hell? So no, I don't think you're going to find anything like that. But this guy says, everybody does this.
Losing their train of thought, misstating who they're about to introduce, not having a fluid moment. And if we're honest with each other, Jake, every time Donald Trump speaks in front of a rally, there's long stretches where he is saying nonsense, where he's talking about whether he'd rather be electrocuted or eaten by a shark, where he's saying nonsensical things about forests bursting into flame or windmills causing cancer. So,
bro, it's not the same. And this is like the straight up definition of a whataboutism. Like, what if Trump is bad? Okay. Yeah, what if he's bad? Are you saying like that just nullifies this then, and they're both bad? So like vote for our guy? Like that's not a great message, To
take that little clip and say, aha, Senator Coons, be honest.
Especially when people can see this. Like the polling, they released polling just after the debate, since the debate, asking if you think the person's mentally fit to be president. It was something like 50% of Americans think Trump is fit to be president, mentally fit, has the mental acuity or whatever that is. And you could read that question several different ways. You could just not like Donald Trump. You could think, oh, well, someone who thinks the things he thinks doesn't have the mental acuity. You can mean all sorts of stuff. Only 27% of people, and this is like the whole country, think Joe Biden is mentally fit to be president. One in four, 25%. Like that's not good, bro. And I feel like the people saying that, a lot of them are going to be sycophants or like guys like this that are just bullshitting themselves and everyone else. But it's I don't know how you're going to sit there and keep trying to push this shit. I mean, I guess you have to. You're the campaign coach here, so what option do you have, really? But man, just the whole this was what I was waiting for whenever I was talking about this right after watching the debate, was watching them try to explain away the most impossible thing to explain and try and spin. It was like it's like watching Donald Trump's press secretaries get asked to like explain stuff, and now you get the same thing from the Biden team. You know, they do something, the president does something, and these people have to go out there and try and explain why it's really not as bad as it looked to people who were there, like Jake Tapper, or like people who watched it and saw the obvious thing, and they have to like explain to you why you're wrong about what you saw. It's kind of hilarious. But let's let the whataboutism continue. I keep interrupting. If I do that, it'll take forever.
Oh, that our president is somehow mentally infirm, and yet to not put up dozens and dozens of much more alarming examples of the former president. Let me cut to the chase with what I think is a simple but important moment of testimony here,
You're on CNN, dude.
Only former President Trump has a vice president, secretary of defense, chief of staff, national security advisor who say he is not morally fit to be president and refuse to support him.
Oh, that's a good.
The whole cabinet of our current president, the entire Senate in the Democratic caucus, every governor I know who already supports Joe Biden still supports Joe Biden, and we interact with him and work with him regularly. So do all of us who are in public life and speaking regularly have slips and moments where we don't finish our sentence properly or misidentify exactly who we're introducing? Absolutely. But I have been saying to the campaign senior leadership, our president needs to reassure folks by doing some unscripted, engaging public events soon. Otherwise, we're going to keep having this exact exchange until the cows come home, and maybe until November, which I frankly think is a disservice to our country.
So, first of all, I don't think it's accurate to suggest that the news media hasn't provided or shown the American people clips of former President Trump saying odd or potentially distressing things. I think that we've been doing that since 2015. And obviously, we have also been covering many people who worked in the Trump administration who have not endorsed Donald Trump. If you want to talk about a candidate to candidate matchup, I understand. That's not really what I'm talking about. And I don't think it's fair to compare you or me losing our train of thought with whatever we saw on the debate stage on Thursday and that little clip from 2 weeks ago. But let me move on to one other question, because there is this question of what if? What if the Democratic Party decides to do something that you obviously don't think is wise? The Biden campaign wrote in an email this weekend that if President Biden were to drop out of the race, quote, we'd switch to candidates who would, according to polls, be less likely to win than Joe Biden, the only person ever to defeat Donald Trump, unquote. Then the email goes on to show polling from, to be honest, partisan pollsters that shows Vice President Harris, Governor Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, and how they match up. Now, to be frank, they're only 1 percentage point behind Joe Biden in those head-to-head matchups with Donald Trump. So it does not actually look as though there would be that much of a difference between the guy who has been president for 3+ years and has been spending tens, hundreds of millions of dollars running as the Democratic nominee and the people who haven't even been running.
Oh, God.
What's your question, Jake?
How does that make your point? Too. If you have Newsom, Buttigieg, and Harris are only 1 point worse than Biden in the head-to-head matchup, how is that like showing some sort of strength of President Biden?
Jake, I may be missing something. You're asking.
That's actually a good point. I didn't think of. Whatever you're showing all those other people as tied with them, they're not even running. They're not the president, for another thing. They don't have the name recognition. Maybe Kamala does. Newsom might be the next one. All of them poll like roughly around the same as Joe Biden. I think in the last one I saw, might have been done or released after this interview. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure Kamala Harris was doing better than Joe Biden. I'm pretty sure. I think she was only within 2 points. And like I said, he was like 6 away. They're all in the same ballpark. Like, it's not going to be a major difference. It's not like if you throw Newsom in there, he's going to be at like over 50% tomorrow. But he would probably have a better shot. I feel like almost any of them would at this point. There's just no, I think the difference is any of those other people, with the exception of probably Kamala Harris, could detach themselves from Joe Biden's record, and they have the potential to improve, whereas Biden will never improve. The Biden administration, unless Trump does something just shockingly egregious, which there's always the chance of that, that could happen. But unless something like that happens, I don't know how this could change. I don't see anything they could do to improve it themselves. They're just counting on Trump taking a nosedive at some point. And that's probably not such a great bet. He looks like he's going to be careful. He looks like he's going to mind his fucking P's and Q's. Although, of course, I did see today he just released. Maybe he's got his confidence back, so he thinks he's got it locked in and he's going to get reckless. Because today, Trump did just like retweet or retruth, I guess is what it's called on Truth Social, a meme saying, repost this if you want to see. If you think Liz Cheney's a traitor and you want to see her in a military tribunal live on television or something, or think she deserves that. But so that's not going to be enough to change anything, stuff like that. But he would have to do something extra bad. Anyway, that's a very good question by Jake Tapper.
Me to explain and defend an email that I didn't author or send out. Is your core question? Let me see if I can get a question.
Let me try again. Let me try again. I'll try again.
How would these other candidates?
No, the core question
competitive than
is,
Joe Biden?
Because you reject the notion that there's actually anything going on beyond just a bad night or a bad moment here or there. Let me just ask you: Do you truly think that President Biden is the strongest candidate to take on Donald Trump in November?
I think Joe Biden, two things, is the strongest, most accomplished president we've had in my lifetime.
Not the question.
That he's been counted out over and over and over. And he can go to the stage and say, here's my record. In my speech at the inauguration, said I would bring Congress together and we would address infrastructure.
He's the strongest, most accomplished. I mean, I know this guy's part of the Biden campaign, so of course that's what he's going to say. That's what you have to say when you're part of anyone's campaign. So I guess I shouldn't mock him too much for saying that. But I have heard that from other people that are not technically part of the campaign, who are like coming out to defend him. It's a lot of the party leadership types and stuff. Like Pelosi was on there trying to say, well, Donald Trump's got dementia, which was just like kind of hilarious. Now we've got all these like old people screaming, I don't have dementia. You've got dementia. You've got Alzheimer's. It was just kind of funny. She's the same age as Biden, I think. Biden is so damn old. I was watching a documentary on the JFK assassination the other day, and I was like, I wonder how old Joe Biden was when this happened, because I was realizing, like, oh my God, this was such a long time ago. It was all this new footage. Just like, this is crazy. And I was like, I wasn't alive, obviously. My parents weren't even alive when that happened. Joe Biden was in freaking college when that happened. He was like 21. Holy crap. Let's let him go. I'm having a senior moment right now.
And manufacturing, and we would reduce prescription drug prices, and we would invest in restoring our competitiveness as a country, and I would bring us out of the pandemic, and I would address the challenges that I inherited from Donald Trump, and he's done a magnificent job. He can say that. The other candidates, governors of different states and so forth, can't say that. His vice president can say she was a central part of that, and I do think that makes for an important argument. And this is the core thing I think you're trying to raise here, Jake. He needs to reassure folks with repeat performances in public that he is up to this task and address the core question you're asking. I don't think
it's possible.
I have not seen evidence that our president is not up to the task of running for and continuing to serve as president. So that's something that is up to our president to prove to the public in the coming weeks. And I'm accepting that as an open question and a challenge. But I do think he has the strongest record in his first 3 years that any of us could imagine. Just last month, our economy created more jobs, in no small part because of President Biden's leadership, than it did in the whole 4 years that Donald Trump was president. Joe Biden has the strongest record.
That's another thing that's making them all shit their pants. She was talking about hair. They're going to win the Senate. Yeah, they're worried. They're worried. All these elected Democrats, the reason they're shitting their pants isn't just because, like, oh God, we could lose the presidency. It's that we could lose our own offices. This is their jobs, okay? If you're a congressman and you're sitting there, like, it matters who's on the top of the ticket as far as you getting reelection. If you're in a close race, because who's at the top of the ticket can drive out or turn away voters for you too. Because a lot of people, probably most people, they just vote straight party line, right? A lot of places, states, I think you have an option. You don't even have to select names. You can just hit Democrats, and you just vote for all the Democrats. I'm pretty sure they still have that. I don't know if Texas does anymore. I remember seeing that, but a lot of people will just go down too and just hit everyone with a D by their name, or they're not going to vote, or whatever. And so this could massively affect the congressional races, the Senate races, all that stuff. A lot of people's jobs are on the line. So I feel like you're going to see, if it doesn't improve, you're going to see more of them, especially the ones in close races are going to be the ones to watch. You've already seen a couple of these guys. There was a guy here, looked like he was about to cry on CNN. I forget what his name was. He had a weird name. It was like Quigley or something. It was some weird name like that. But he was like a congressman. I forget where he's from. And yeah, he was looking all sad and mopey. And he was like, yeah, he was trying to avoid saying we need Joe Biden to step down. He basically said it. He basically said, yeah, we need him to get out of here for our own sake so we can win. Yeah, he'd write in John Bolton. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about writing in John Bolton or writing in Dick Cheney. That's apparently what John Bolton's going to do. Just for the meme. Just so I can say I voted for Dick Cheney.
We have the all-time high in the stock market, all-time low in unemployment. We have crime going down. We have investments in manufacturing going up.
You know,
we are headed in a strong direction. And he's got a great platform to run for re-election. He is not the only Democrat who can run for president. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but he has the strongest record to run on.
I mean, he has given fewer press conferences, fewer interviews than any president in modern history, including the previous one, who's now running for re-election. And, you know, this could all be...
And the previous one told more lies per sentence than any candidate has ever told on a debate stage.
This is not the discussion that we're having. We could certainly, you know, have that conversation. I certainly didn't particularly care for it when President Biden said no U.S. service members had been killed in the previous 4 years. But moving on from things that were said that were not true.
Oh, man, they're just getting destroyed by their own outlets now. CNN... Even MSNBC might be more friendly. You had I think it was Joe Scarborough came out. He might have taken this back, but I think right after he came out and was just like, he's got to drop out now. And now Jake Tapper's he's just roasting this guy. He was just like, yeah, well, I didn't like it when he lied about saying that no troops had died on his watch. Just right to the guy's face. He's just got to take it. This whole interview this is supposed to be damage control, and he's just getting owned. God, I don't see them ever coming back from this.
I think it is easy to settle this right now by President Biden going to the Brady Press Center, the press file in the White House, and doing a 2-hour press conference. Everybody would cover it live. Networks probably would cover it live. He'd answer all these questions. It's not a crazy thing to expect a president to do. And the fact is, you know that. The campaign knows that. The White House knows that. That's how you settle this. You just put him in front of reporters, and he handles himself with acuity, aplomb. We all see it was just a fluke. Oh, my God, I can't believe it happened. And we move on. The fact that you haven't done that says quite a bit to me.
God damn. Oh, my God. That's true. It's true that, like, in a normal situation, that is what you would do. If something happened, if this was unexpected and it was just an honest to God, like, we don't know what that was just a weird fluke, it would be like the next damn day you would do something like that. If he was like 50 and this happened, and he had like weird, like, what's he saying? And he had never done anything like this before. And you're just like, my God, where did that come from? Where did that come from? Why is this 50-year-old man talking like that? What's he doing? Is he sick? In that case, people might think, like, is he sick? Like, what on earth is wrong with him? And then you'd have, like, the next day, you would either release saying, yeah, he's got to be in the hospital or something, or you would do that and he'd be like, I don't know. They switched out my heart meds or whatever it was. You'd have some excuse. They've got nothing because they know this is just because he's old. Or it's even worse. He actually has some condition. He's actually got dementia or something like that. Like, who goddamn knows?
Jake, what I've just said maybe 3 times in this interview is that is what I am urging and recommending. I think that the Biden family had a long scheduled family retreat at Camp David where they had a family photograph taken and they were discussing both this debate and the summer and their plans. And I'm encouraging them to add something like that to the schedule, whether it's a 60 Minutes interview or something at the podium at the White House or a town hall. That's not up to me to decide, but that's what I've been encouraging our president to do.
Democratic Senator Chris Coons.
All right. Well, that's that. Yeah, you think it'd be a little bit more urgent, and you might want to get on top of that and like actually get that done. But it's not going to happen because we all know what the case was. We kind of knew this going in. I didn't expect it to be that horrible as it was, just because you would think that they would be prepared. They'd have some kind of thing up their sleeve. Like they pulled off the State of the Union, right? Obviously, though, like the State of the Union is a very different thing. That's a speech. I'm pretty sure, is that on a teleprompter? It must be. It's such a long damn speech. But it's not the same thing when you're just sitting there giving a monologue and getting through something like that. It's not nearly as stressful. You're giving a speech, and it's just going to be a bunch of people clapping at every goddamn thing you're saying. It's pre-written. I'm pretty sure it's on a teleprompter. You can bring notes. There's no rules. There's no one yelling at you and calling you like a disgrace and a terrible president and calling out your shit. And here's the other thing. That guy's bringing up the fact that, Donald Trump lied all through that debate. He lied. This is what you hear the other side say. Well, he lied so many times and no one's talking about that. No one's talking about all the lies from Donald Trump. It's like, well, two things, 2 points. First, there's a reason no one's talking about that because most people were barely even listening to Donald Trump. We were like eyes glued on Joe Biden. Like, is he about to just drop dead? What is wrong with his face? What is he doing? What is he saying? You're just dwelling on, like me, I was probably like just laughing. And then like you're watching Donald Trump just like devastate the man. It's horrible. You're not really trying to fact check Donald Trump while that's going on. While you're watching him just beat the mess out of Joe Biden. That's not really what you're dwelling on. You're like, oh my God, how bad could this get? It can't get any worse, can it? My God. And it did. So there's that. You're not really going to think about anything that he said that was true or not. You're not thinking about him at all, really. Everything you're thinking about is just, oh my God, Joe Biden's doing horrible. Point number 2, if he wasn't having this horrible meltdown up on that stage and like putting on the worst performance ever, if he was sentient at all, if he had any shred of mental acuity left where he was comprehending the things Trump was saying, he would be able to call Trump out on this stuff, right? He would be able to turn to him and be like, what you said right there was a lie. And he would get those good shots in. That's what the debate prep should be for. I feel like his debate prep was more like they were hoping the structure of the debate would save him from having to do that. I think that's why they agreed to the structure. They were hoping it wouldn't be, I've got to get zingers in on Trump. It's just basically we'll have a debate, but it'll be 2 separate speeches or 2 separate press conferences where we stand next to each other so it looks like we're debating, but we're not really debating. That's what he was hoping for. That's not what they got. That's why it was so bad. And he was incapable of being able to like actually give good responses to Trump. He tried on a couple things. He said, you called the veterans suckers. These are all kind of pre-canned attack lines that he's already going to make. And so that's what his debate prep was. Normal debate prep would be like, okay, when he brings this up, if he says this, or we think this is his line, he has these canned lines that he'll say. These are the things he says. Here's some snappy shit that you can just whack him with whenever he says that. No way Biden was ever going to be able to do that. He's saying things like, "Oh, he's got the morals of an alley cat," or he called the troops suckers. Like it was no good. He wasn't sitting there saying, "You said this was a lie, and here's why." Blah 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 blah. This is what you did. This is what you said that contradicts what you're saying right now. That type of shit. No, it was never going to happen. Never going to happen with him. So I don't think they're going to recover from this. This guy going on to Jake Tapper's show, he didn't even do that well. He didn't do any better than Biden. It wasn't as bad. Like, obviously, that guy could finish his sentences, so it wasn't quite that bad, but it wasn't good. Like, this has been basically, that was a taste. That was a taste of what the Biden campaign and their response has been to all of this, and it's not good enough until I don't know. I don't think there's anything they can do. I think they're relying on this point at Trump to just bite the dust and do something horribly egregious. That's their only shot. And he's going to be extra careful. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. And unless that happens, or they kick him out. So I guess we'll wait and see. We'll see what happens. We've got a little while before the convention. I don't think the convention is until the middle of August sometime. I think August 20th. So they've got that amount of time. There was talk about them moving the convention up so they could just like officially declare Biden the nominee to stop all of this talk about let's kick him off the ticket. Because that idea scares a lot of people too. They're like, well, that would make it even worse if you kicked him off the ticket. It would look like we don't know what we're doing. We might have to start over the fundraising and have to resell some other candidate. I honestly think that's their better option. I understand the negatives to it, but I feel like any other candidate has room to where they can grow and they can improve and win people over. I don't think Biden has a shot at doing that. I just don't. So unless Trump does something to scare people away, they're just totally fucked. But anyway, I've gone on long enough for this. I don't know what else I'll do next. I think this is enough on this until we see what happens, if anything else changes or shifts with it. I was looking at some crazy shit I might respond to, like just absolute. I think I found the worst, like at least it's the largest, like tanky channel I've ever seen. And the reason I say it's the worst is he had like 1.7 million people, their subscribers on this channel. And I couldn't figure out how you could do that as like a tanky, saying the stuff, like the stuff he was saying was like super egregious shit. And so I went on there. I was like, how could this tanky communist like amass such a following? And apparently it was the most like pernicious thing I've ever seen. Like, I guess what this channel was in the beginning was it started out as like one of those like explainer channels, if you know what I'm talking about, like where they just do like little like 10-minute videos, 5-10-minute videos explaining some thing. Usually it's science stuff. Sometimes it's other academic stuff or economic stuff or history stuff, whatever. And they're usually pretty neutral. It's just like I'm going to get on, I'm going to do this little snappy video. Have you ever wondered how the Federal Reserve works? Or like, do you know about the orbit of Pluto or whatever? Or why the orbit of Pluto is extra weird? 10 animals that look really weird or like shit like that. So it was like pretty normal shit. And it's one of those channels that kind of blows up, gets subscribers, and apparently built a subscriber base like that. And then got more into like, I'm explaining governmental stuff, economic stuff. And then at some point shifted just to full on, like, I'm making communist propaganda videos now. And I was like, that's one of the like dirtiest things I've seen someone do in a while. And I feel like he started out, for what I had seen online, there's just people that were confused about it in his audience. And I was like, maybe he always was that. Other people were saying he shifted that way as over time he got radicalized, basically. Either way, the guy's nuts. And so it was a bizarre experience seeing someone, because it was still, the videos were still in that style I don't know who to compare him to. You can go look up. There's all kinds of channels that do that kind of thing, where it's just a guy talking, explaining some science thing. It's still in that style. So he's like a very like a measured cadence, and he's not flying off the wall. He's not like, you know, I don't know, Hassan Piker or something. He doesn't like come off. He's not. He doesn't have the aesthetic of a crazy tanky, but the things he's saying are equally as extreme or worse. He's just like crazy shit. So I might respond to some of that stuff. I also watched one of those Jubilee videos where they bring in the people that disagree, and it was like MAGA Republicans versus anti-Trump Republicans, and that was pretty funny. I only got like halfway through that, but I might watch some of that because that was just brutal. It gets savage so fast. The MAGA Republicans are just assholes to these anti-Trump Republicans. It's just like, oh my God. They go from like 0 to 100. It's every one of them. And every one of the MAGA people believes like every crazy thing. They won't ever, like, they're totally kind of aligned on everything. And it's just like, man, it's wild. That's one of the funnier ones I've seen. I might do that. That would be a fun one. That'd be kind of a long one. Those Jubilee videos are so damn long. Yeah, good response streams. Yeah. I might get back into doing response streams. I also saw a funny one a little bit further. It'd be a kind of a throwback because I haven't done any kind of religion stuff in a while. But I saw a funny debate between Dinesh D'Souza and Alex O'Connor. It was pretty hilarious. Alex O'Connor just like devastated him. But Dinesh, he actually didn't. Dinesh did a good job, but only because he did a good job in the sense that, you know, like Alex would bring up all this stuff and it was funny watching him do it. And then Dinesh's response was just be like, well, you know, Christians don't really care what the Bible has to say, or like Christians, we kind of believe like whatever we want to. Well, what difference does that make? Or like, he just like brushed everything off, like without really even giving a response at all. It was almost brilliant. It's almost brilliant. Like, it was kind of funny. So I might do that one, but I don't know. I think the MAGA Republicans one might be a good one to watch. It had Lauren Chin on it. It was Lauren Chin and Lady MAGA and a couple other people that I didn't recognize or know who they were. So anyway, we'll see. But that's what I got going on. Probably won't do much for a little while though. So I'll catch you guys later. Have a great night.